catered events, and I don't know, it was just unique. I was friends with a lot of pilots, you know, who can say that they worked alongside an SR-71 pilot.
Yeah, Maverick and Goose, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about the photographer story, and you know the moon landing it's a conspiracy. You can be a non-flat earth, you can be a ball earther and not believe we went to the moon. In fact, one of the guys on the show, his name's Chad. I mean, I wouldn't call him a flat earther, but he does not believe we went to the moon. I mean, he thinks it looks ridiculous.
Good.
You know, and so I'm curious. You know, back when you heard them say that, did it touch any points where you had said, oh yeah, you know, I've heard people that say they didn't think we went to the moon, or was that kind of the first time you had heard that idea?
That was the first time, and to be honest with you, I didn't take it seriously in any aspect. I supported NASA. I supported what they did. And I think the majority of people who work for NASA really enjoy what they do and support what they do. You wouldn't question it. You wouldn't. So for the photographers to say something like that is a little weird, right? Well, a few months ago I realized that when I got my tours through the photo lab, there were no pictures of space. They were all jets. So the photo lab has a lot of photos, but none of space.
Wow.
Yeah.
So brings me to my next question. I've heard you mention how you've met Matt Powerland before, or Matt Boylan,
Yes.
Who claims, I have no reason not to believe him, claims that he was a photorealist painter for NASA. And did you know of any other quote unquote painters that were there while you were there?
We did not. In fact, I knew we had painters because when you walked into the main building where I worked, I think it was building 1600, in that foyer we had a beautiful painting of the globe that we knew was a painting because they made a big deal out of it and presented it and gave it to us in our building. And so I knew there were painters, but I just thought it was painting. I never put two and two together.
Yeah, I mean, he's become famous for saying photo or painting, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it seems to me that probably 95% of people work at NASA and don't even know there's a debate about the shape of the Earth.
Right. That's right. If I had to guess based on what I know now and what I knew then, you wouldn't question it. It's not something you'd even think about.
Right. Yeah, and so to me, I mean, even there would have to be a percentage that knew they were hiding something, but they don't even have to know that that's what they're hiding, right? I mean, for all they know, an astronaut, for example, could be told, hey, we're not sending you up because we're saving money and we're using it for anti-terrorism.
Absolutely.
You know?
Everything is parceled. Everything is compartmentalized. You have a specific need to know. And that's true with NASA, Air Force, Lockheed, every government position I've had. It was always need to know, and so you don't really ask outside of the parameter of your position. It's kind of a no-no. It's kind of you just know not to.
Yeah, and if you do ask and you're told something, then you're responsible for it, right?
And anybody who knows something and they tell you, then they're in deep water because you're only allowed to speak about what you're allowed to speak about. So my badge would have colors on it, and those colors dictate what areas I'm allowed to go into, what my need to know is. And so everybody has specific things on their badge. So if you're talking about your program and you're talking to someone whose badge clearly doesn't show that they're briefed in that program, then you're going to get in trouble for speaking about it.
And so from what I understand, there were some things that you were briefed in on, which you weren't allowed to speak on, which you've never spoken on.
Correct.
Because of your duty. So give me an idea on like 1 to 10, from your point of view, what your clearance level was, and then relate that to maybe the percentage of the facility you were even allowed to go into? Or would it be even hard to even speculate on that?
So I worked on something called a black project. When you work on a black project, it doesn't exist. And that's pretty much, if you look at my going away placard from the F-117 program, and I went into the black program, it says, be a light on the dark side. The reason it says that is because I was going into a black program.
So, which begs the question, if a project doesn't exist, where does it get funding from?
Same place, but it has a name that isn't its name.
Right.
It's hard to explain that.
Sure. No, I get it. So my point would be, you know, if NASA is getting $50 million a day and they are not sending
Right.
rockets up or people up, then they've got extra money for quote unquote black projects.
Correct.
And yeah, so that's super interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Do you, knowing what you know now or knowing what you believe now, do you have any guilt associated with having worked there or anything like that? Or?
No, I don't have guilt, but I do have a little bit of shame for our government, in that I was a big patriot, very pro-American, very pro-Republican. You know, I was just a very, you know, pro-government, pro-Air Force. And not that I'm not still, because the people who work there, they're still good people. You know, they don't know. But I'm ashamed of the people who are at the top level who know this, and they don't have guilt. And they send stuff down the pipe to the people who, the regular everyday people, to do these jobs. And these jobs are pretty much created jobs. In order to create this atmosphere, you have to have a budget office, you have to have an IT to support all the computers. What are they actually working on?
Right.
Yeah, no, we don't know. So no, I don't have guilt for what I did.
So my buddy Paul, who does a show with me, he was talking to a girl who works at NASA, and she works on tracking submarines, which sounds weird to me. So are you aware of that and or any other what I would call space-related programs that NASA works on?
We didn't have a lot of space stuff at Edwards, at Dryden, because we were more related to the jets. That's why we were located at an Air Force facility that supported jet flight. I can tell you there's a lot of programs that are unusual, that they typically deal with flight, though. I have not heard of a submarine, although it could be a tracking thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, maybe tracking. I mean, it sounded interesting to me. I mean, coming from the biblical mindset of the waters above, you know, we were wondering if they were trying to go under and up or something. You know?
I think they are trying to test the waters. You know, there's you've seen the video where they're trying to go through.
Yeah, that's phenomenal
They're
stuff.
able to get through that.
So, what would you tell a non-flat earther who's extremely skeptical? If it's possible for someone who used to work at NASA to believe in flat Earth, I would say it's possible for anybody. But what would your message be?
I would say definitely keep your skepticism, because you have to be skeptical of everything, and I am still. But I would say keep an open mind at the same time, and just look into it. Give it some time. It's not going to happen in one day. And you can jokingly say just give it a day, but the truth is you need more than a day, and you need to be open-minded. And just because it's so taboo doesn't mean it's wrong. It is taboo, and I think there's a reason that it's become that way. I think it was purposeful. Anyone who says the earth is flat is crazy. Well, I'm not crazy. I hold a clearance, and so I can tell you I'm not crazy, and the people that I've met who are flat earthers are not crazy. What's crazy is not being willing to look at something that's unusual.